This is why we assign boys seating in the chapel. Because no one ever wants to sit up front.
About that rate? No. It's not.
There you go.
It's short.
Yeah. 8 of the day. Well, good morning, and I trust that everyone, parents and sons, are enjoying this time together on the hilltop this weekend. For many of you, I assume that this is the first time that you've seen your sons since you dropped them off on opening day, and I can tell from the hugs and the smiles that that's the case. Parents' Weekend is a great occasion, a very special occasion for the entire school, and we're really glad everyone's here. I'd like to begin with a quick history lesson, and I'll be very brief about Parents' Weekend. The first Parents' Weekend held at Salisbury School was held in February of 1936. Emerson Quayle, Salisbury School's second headmaster, invited parents to spend the weekend with their sons and see the school in action. Now, we didn't need a large venue like the beautiful one we're sitting in right now, because there were only 45 students at Salisbury School that year. The Great Depression really had taken its toll on enrollment, not only at Salisbury, but at all New England's 40 schools. And the headmaster had five masters, 5 men, and the 6 of them comprised the entire teaching faculty, teaching all the different subjects and coaching all the sports, living in the dorms, and so on. A few mothers did attend that weekend, but they were asked to spend the weekend in the White Hart, to sleep in the White Hart Inn. The fathers were invited to spend the night in the dormitories with their sons. We got rid of that tradition very quickly. But it must have been great fun, and parents watched their sons act and sing in public speaking contests and sports, and obviously watched visit classes. And, it was a very festive weekend. There were no Blackberries, there were no iPhones, and everyone survived. But it was a great weekend. You can read in the history books. It was a weekend to celebrate the school. It was a weekend to celebrate the boys, the partnership between family and school, and the love and the bonds between parents and sons. And here we are, 76 years later, doing the very same thing. And again, I just wanted to welcome you all. I often say that rain on Parents' Weekend means that we will have a sunny graduation. So if you were here early yesterday morning, we had 2 rather quick but significant showers. And I'm counting that as our rain, because of course today it's a little chilly outside, but it's beautiful. But I'm going to cross my fingers that rain yesterday counted as our rain on Parents' Weekend, so that we will indeed have bright sunny skies on May 31st. We have 2 parts of today's convocation. The first is a brief chapel service, much like the ones that we hold every Tuesday and Friday mornings during the school year. The chapel, you may have heard me say from time to time, is really the quintessential classroom on this campus. All of our most important core values emanate from the chapel. It is at the very center of school life. And in a moment, I will turn to my good friend, Reverend Lewis, to lead us. And after that moment, we will have a chance to celebrate academic achievement from the past year. And I've asked Associate Headmaster Sam Simmons and Dean of Faculty Christopher Hinchy to shepherd that part of the ceremony. But before I turn to my colleagues, I just have a quick thought or two that I'd like to share with you on this beautiful fall morning. I don't know whether you have been visiting our website lately, but if you have, you may have read about 2 Salisbury men in the last few weeks. Both are extraordinary people. One graduated from Salisbury, and one did not. And here are their stories. The first was a boy named David. He was struggling as a student at Fairfield Prep. He was bright and talented, but he was the classic underachiever through his 9th grade year. He came to Salisbury looking for a fresh start and a new venue. And whether it was the right school match or whether it was the right time in his adolescence, whether he had the right mentors, probably a combination of all of those things. But needless to say, David blossomed into the young man that we hoped he would be, that his parents hoped he would be, and he graduated 3 years later with honors. In his time in Salisbury, he was an honor roll student, prefect, three-sport captain, and all of that led to him being admitted early to Bucknell University. And he went down to Bucknell and he did fabulously well down there, in addition to being captain of the soccer team. And he graduated from Bucknell 4 years later and signed up for Marine Officers Candidate School and received his commission after passing. After 2 tours in Iraq and getting badly wounded in a firefight in Fallujah, he retired from the military and he is now working for J.P. Morgan in the private banking division and lives in Denver, Colorado. Great guy. The second person, Brendan, came to Salisbury much in the same manner. A classic underachiever at his school, at home. In conversation, he had a quick wit, he was articulate. However, academic success had eluded him at his prior school. He came to Salisbury a young boy with great hopes, and we had great hopes for him as well. Unfortunately, Brendan brought with him many of the same bad habits that had led to trouble at home, preventing him from achieving the academic success that he sought and that we were hoping that he would find here. He often slept in class, he was late handing in homeworks, if he handed them in at all. He skipped chapel and was mischievous from time to time. And ultimately, sadly, Brendan was asked to leave Salisbury. We were saddened to see him lose his place, but it was the right decision for Brendan, and it was the right decision for the school. And he went home and finished high school in suburban D.C., and he too entered the Marine Corps. Only he entered the Marine Corps as an enlisted man. He worked his way up from the lowest rank of private to his final rank of sergeant, and along the way he was promoted 5 times, which is the maximum progress an enlisted man can achieve. He served in the Marine Corps for 4 years. His first tour of duty, he and his unit landed on the island of Haiti 3 days after the great earthquake and helped the Haitian people. They then were sent to Somalia, where they were protect ships from the Somali pirates, and then served in Iraq. And this last year was a very, very tough year in Afghanistan. He's now retired from the service. He has a civilian life ahead of him, and he can really do whatever he wants. He's a terrific fighter. Now, think of these 2 men. They didn't know each other. They don't know each other today. They don't even know of each other. And their careers at Salisbury did not overlap. 2 young men, 2 very different paths. Now here's where it gets interesting. David just took time off, the first gentleman I spoke about, just took time off from his job at J.P. Morgan to join a group of his friends, former Marines, and ride their bikes across the country. They started in Oceanside, California, and they rode all the way to Ground Zero in Lower Manhattan. 3,200 miles, 9 days, 450 miles a day. They took turns. They didn't all ride 450 miles a day. I was confused at the beginning. The endeavor was called the Warrior Ride, and they raised in excess of $2 million for a foundation which donates funds to the children of U.S. servicemen and women and law enforcement folks who are killed in active service while defending the United States. The funds are for college scholarships. They completed the ride on Tuesday, October 2nd, as scheduled, on time. I caught up with David after he finished, and I asked him about the experience, and I was in awe for being able to accomplish this. And all he said was, in a very humble manner, typical of him, it was a great honor to be part of such an important cause and mission. Brendan, the second gentleman, visited the school community this past Monday, joining us for lunch. It was his first visit to Salisbury since the fall of 2007 when we asked him to leave school. He too yearns to help others and to make a difference. Brendan is set to embark on a run across the country with a team of fellow Marines. Somehow he put the same starting point, Oceanside, California. They're going to run each of them is going to run 15 miles a day, 7 days a week for 8 months. They're going to run from Oceanside, California to Portland, Maine. They will run through Washington, D.C., and they will run in and out of the gates of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point along the way. He and his team are looking to raise $2 million for various organizations, including the USO, and Team Red, White, and Blue. Now, an important point of clarity, parents especially, and kids, I know you're shaking me with this. This is not a recruiting speech for the U.S. Marine Corps, I promise. That's a part of their story, but that's not my point. It's the story of two Salisbury men who took very different paths, but ended up closer to a common destination. And here's what I mean. It's interesting to think about these two men, and their stories, both of their stories, inspire me. They are irrevocably linked because of their Salisbury experience, and they are certainly part of the Salisbury program. Here are a couple of takeaways when I think of their stories. Both Brendan and David say that the turning point in their lives came at Salisbury School when they were students. David found a home here, a place where he could make the journey from young boy to young man, and from being an underachieving boy to being a proud and accomplished man. For Brendan, his turning point came the day he was asked to leave, the day he was asked to leave Salisbury. He says that it took him probably a few days, maybe a few weeks, to realize what he had lost. But he did. And he remembers how disappointed his parents were in him. And that hurt him deeply. But he made himself a promise that he would learn from his mistakes. And on Monday he told our boys, "My heart has been and remains at Salisbury School." And he recently emailed, I thanked him for coming up and visiting us, and he said that this school, this opportunity meant so much to him, and that he was very, very grateful for the time he spent on the hotel. David also emailed me, and I had a reason to chat with him in the last few days, and David wrote, "My Salisbury experience laid a wonderful foundation for me. I will forever be grateful for and indebted to the school." Boys, I hope you think about these two men. Their stories are important. Whether Salisbury, your Salisbury experience, is a turning point for you, or just a very important experience in your young lives, I can promise you that your years on the hilltop will be a defining experience for you. They will be a defining experience for you. Truthfully, I can see David and Brendan sitting right here, years ago, with their parents, at Parents Weekly. I trust that you boys understand how fortunate you are to be given this opportunity by your parents, to make this moment and all the moments that you spend at Salisbury possible. It is a huge sacrifice to send you, each of you, to Salisbury School. Financially, emotionally, it is a huge sacrifice. And your job, your responsibility, is to work hard, is to take advantage of this incredible opportunity, and to make your parents proud. The Gospel of Luke 12:48, in the Gospel of Luke 12:48, it is written, "To whom much is given, much is required." You may have heard some people say, "To whom much is given, much is expected." It means the same thing. Either way you say it, you have been given much to have the opportunity to study here at Salisbury School. And your parents, your teachers, and I expect you to honor this day. Now you may be thinking right now, "Geez, Mr. Chandler, how do I do it? How do I honor the day?" I have a very simple answer. You work hard every day. Every day you work hard. You buy in to what we have to offer. You make a strong commitment. And you bring positive energy to everything you do. People are inspired by passion. Bring energy and optimism and hope to everything you do. And finally, from time to time, I hope you will ask yourself, what can I do to make today better for somebody else? What can I do today to make the life of one of my friends, or someone I don't know, better? Do something unique. Challenge yourself. Do something that makes a difference. That makes you proud. That makes us proud. You are all all of you boys, you are all in the Salisbury family. And in this family, we lead out front. We lead out front. Think of David and Brendan and their stories. To whom much is given, much is required. The world needs this kind of leadership. That's what Salisbury is preparing you to do. To serve and to lead. To be a force of goodness. To be a shining light in a world that is all too often dark. That is what your parents and the faculty expect of you. Thank you for listening. Reverend Zacharias.
Good morning. Welcome to our chapel, so to speak. As Mr. Chandler said, one of the most cherished parts of our work here and our life here together at the school is our time in chapel. And I know I am biased when I say this because it's my job, I'm a collar, and yet I really mean it. The chapel is the one place where at least twice a week we all are. All the faculty, all the students, at the same time in the same place, with no agenda except to be together and reflect on the most important values of why we are here and indeed of our lives themselves. And we begin every morning with a simple refrain which we will join in here together. And I ask our students and parents to join us as we transform this gym into our chapel this morning with our opening words. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And let us all now stand and turn to the back page of the bulletin. We'll sing together the Sarah hymn, verses 1 and 4, the Sarah hymn. said in chapel, that's okay, just look out the window. They think I'm kidding, but I'm not. I think a lot is to be learned from looking out windows, especially in a space like our chapel here. That's some of the most beautiful views out of windows I've ever seen. Looking out across the valley, through the ancient glacier-moving hills of the Taconic Range, the changing of the leaves, the changing of the weather, the way that clouds and storms wrap over the peaks. It sometimes takes my breath away. And some mornings before you guys show up to chapel, I'm usually there early and sometimes just sit back behind the altar on the ground looking out the window. And I'd like us to imagine right now, right here, that there are no walls and there are no ceilings. And we are joined in this world, in this beautiful place. And I want to begin or set up my comments this morning by sharing a reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. And not surprisingly, it's Jesus talking. And here's what he says to his friends. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or what you will drink, or about your body, or what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your Creator feeds them. And can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to the span of your life? Why do you worry? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither reap, they never toil or spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like even these flowers. Therefore, do not worry. Do not say, what will we eat? What will we drink? What will we wear? But strive first for the kingdom of God and righteousness. And all these things will be given to you as well. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today's trouble is enough for today. Now, I know that all of you, our students especially, you had summer reading to do this summer. And I had my own sort of summer reading. Early in the summer, I was home in Maine, where I was building a boat with my dad and my sons. And my dad had just finished a book that he loved so much. He said, you got to read this book. And he gave it to me. And it's a book I kind of picked away throughout the summer by one of my favorite writers. Many of you may know him, John McPhee, who has made a career out of learning about the world around him and writing about it. At this point, McPhee has written over 50 books about everything from the life of a headmaster to orange farmers to the merchant marine to the environmental movements. And this particular book is about geology, about the history of the natural world of our planet. And interestingly, this eloquent and prolific writer, I was reading an interview with him recently where he admits that writing does not come easily to him. In fact, he struggles with it. He thinks writing is one of the hardest things in the world to do, and yet this man has written over 50 books and they're good. He does it somehow. And here's how he does it. It sounds trite, but it's true, and he will say this. I do it by sitting down and writing one sentence at a time. One page at a time. And this most recent book, called the Annals of the Former World, is the book that took McPhee the longest to write. It took him over 20 years to write it. because the subject was too big for even his mind to wrap around, the history of the world, geology. And as a bit of an amateur scientist myself, I am honestly continually dazzled and inspired by my own observations of the natural world and our collective observations through our best scientific minds in the world. I love how it stretches my mind in wonder and fills me with appreciation beyond words of the mere fact of our existence and our ability to be aware at all of our surroundings. I commend this book to all of you, if you have time, which you probably don't today, but I commend this book to you. And at the risk of oversimplifying a grand subject written by a great writer, there are two ideas of this book that I want to share with you today. And one is simply the concept of time. When we look at time on a geologic scale, this book, I realized, could kind of drive me crazy in this sense. Because when we start looking at time on a geologic scale, you realize you have to recalibrate your sense of chronology of time. I've always liked scientific notation and the great usefulness of exponents and powers of 10 to solve problems. But on the other hand, I have to confess that when we start thinking of time in millions or billions of years, I can sort of intellectually understand it, but emotionally there's a disconnect. My subjective experience as a human being in this life can't honestly comprehend billions of years. I think honestly in my own life, I can sort of account for 4 or 5 generations. Of course, I can work on my own life. I know something of my parents' life and my grandparents' life. I can read history and realize all of human civilization is only about 10,000 years old. And then I find myself more and more, and maybe you're like this, I find myself more and more consumed, worried, thinking about my children's life, what the world will be if they grow into, and I can imagine their children's life. But basically, I can sort of intellectually, honestly hold together a few hundred years. And beyond that, it's just kind of intellectual mark to deal with time on a big, grand scale. And this great awareness and this subjective awareness of my own experience of life somehow needs to be resolved. In my life, I think all of us have to resolve this somehow, this tension. The second point that McPhee brings up, or that I noticed about this book, and I think it's probably why it took me 20 years to write it, the only way he could make sense of appreciating this timeless geologic scale was by telling the story on a human scale, with real human relationships, with real human concerns on a day-to-day, here and now basis. McPhee, who lives and writes and teaches at Princeton, told this story by driving across the country, much like the bikers, on Interstate 80, connecting Princeton to San Francisco. And he makes this trip with a number of different geologists who, throughout the book, you get to know them, their life, their children, their relationships. And it was in these stories, in their relationships as fellow learners on the kind of journey that made the book work. The relationships, their shared awareness of past and future, but also in the here and now. Their awareness of these connections, their sense of wonder, their sense of being on a journey together. This is what allowed it to come together and to make sense. And I felt like I was there, whether I was on a pickup truck with McPhee and this professor at the University of Wyoming, looking at millions of years of sedimentary rock layers on the sides of canyons, or if we were looking at sedimentary rock on the highest peaks of our western mountains, which, by the way, the highest peaks of our mountains came from rock that was once the bottom of the ocean. It's dazzling. It blows your mind. This vast awareness. But this vast awareness together with the subjective awareness of being a human was brought together in these relationships. Which brings you back to the chapel in today, and this year. And I'm thinking in particular about some of the wonderful chapel talks we've had this year by students. Students like Nick and Sadiq who are here, but also students like Chad Goldberg who came back here this year after graduating last year to share with us what they're observing and what they've shared, and themes of appreciation for relationships, an appreciation for time, for two things, like the sense that when we're here, there's not enough time, but also the sense of the quickness of time, and from a human perspective. Also the appreciation of the sense of a journey, and the awareness of greater connections beyond our immediate lives. And three words that kind of stuck to me from these talks. One of them, Nick brought up the word integrity. The word integrity is sticking with me. But also another word that came through these talks, appreciation. Integrity and appreciation. And the third word is purpose. Integrity, appreciation, and purpose. I almost wish I could just give us all the homework assignment to just go study these words for next week. But I don't think we need any more homework. So let's have no more homework. Okay? Say as a chaplain, no homework today from anybody. Stop. I really, the only homework I think we have for today is to seriously enjoy this day. To ask questions, share concerns, share hopes, be together, go somewhere, stop and look around at this beautiful setting in this amazing world in this precious life and know that it matters. For the word integrity is not just a moral word about doing what is right, although it is that. Integrity, like its root, shares the word integrate, to hold together many different things, conveying the usefulness of awareness of a greater whole, a wholeness within ourselves, and an awareness of being part of a greater truth. And in this, there's a sense of appreciation. And in this, there's a related sense of purpose, which brings me back to the gospel message. When Jesus tells his friends and us not to worry, he says, basically, worrying isn't work. It's not doing you any good. As one of my teachers once told me, he said, Jeff, if you're worried about something you can't do anything about, stop worrying. And he said, and if you're worried about something you can do something about, stop worrying. Get to work on the things you can do something about. And he ends this with, pay first to what in this gospel translation says the kingdom of God. That little phrase, biblical scholars have for centuries wrestled with different ways to interpret that, whether it's called the kingdom of God, realm of heaven. I'm convinced it means something like this, of being fully aware in the here and now, in a place of integrity, of appreciation and purpose, holding together that great awareness of time with the immediate and subjective awareness of time in our relationships that matter. And I'd like to leave us with a blessing that many of you have heard because I've shared it in the chapel again and again. But I think it is perfect for today. St. Teresa wrote this in the 16th century in Italy. And it's just as true today. Today, may there be peace within. May you trust that you are exactly where you are meant to be. May you not forget the infinite possibilities that are born of faith. May you use those gifts that you have received and pass on the love that has been given to you. May you be content knowing that you are a child of God, a child of the most holy truth. Let this presence settle into your bones and allow your soul the freedom to sing, to dance, to praise, and to love. It is there for each and every one. Amen. The Lord be with you. Let's pray. The Lord, who guided our fathers to found this school, watch over it, we pray, in the years to come, as you have guided it in the past. Keep its leaders alert to the voice of your Spirit, that they cling only to such things that are good in the past and press forward with courage to the new service of the future. Grant to teachers and students humility to learn, wisdom to plan, courage to follow where your truth may lead, and above all, to love to think of others as yourself. Bind us all into this holy fellowship. Make all our worship, our work, and play witness faithfully to you, so that your light and love may fill the life of this community, now and forever. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
The first part of our convocation this morning is, as Chandler stated earlier, an opportunity to recognize scholastic achievement in two different forms. One, those boys who earned annual status last spring trimester of the 2011-2012 school year. The other part is to recognize some academic scholastic achievement in course time that was determined at the end of the year. So, to start out, I'm going to read the names of the boys who were recognized as earning honorable status, and I will break these into smaller groups. The boys with my call your names, please come forward and we'll give you their honorable certificates. The first group is boys who earned second honors, which is an average of B or B plus, and no grade smaller than C minus. In last year's third form, a number of boys with the status in the first group, please come forward. Quincy Gray, Ryan Phelps, Justin Pugh, Will Thomas, Max Segal, and Junkie Newman. You guys come forward. Another group of boys from last year's third form. Willem San, Adan Tebachwe, Sam Lankto, Robert Clayton, Andrew Kin, and Ray Russo. The third group from last year's third form. Charles Cross, James Campbell Lang, Josh Yang, Alexander Gonzalez, Billy Kane, and Chuck Chun Chu. Last year's fourth form. Three different groups. The first group, Duncan Jones, Angelo Philahone, Rex Rubin, Moto Nakajima, and Min Rin. Second group from last year's fourth form. Christopher Hamilton, James Gawanter, Dayun Wang, Matt Rote, Taylor Ogan, and Suyang Chen. The third group from the fourth form last year. Aiden Appleby, Sam Schul, Zemo Tao, Alec Grant, Will Toffee, and Duck Fine. From the fifth form last year, John Neymar, Adeline Tebachwe, Matthew Barrett, Ryan Joyce, P.K. Isaacs, Anson Choi, Michael Cuso. Another group from last year's fifth form. Eric Jasinski, Jeffrey Grant, Clark Lambo, Nitreat Khan, Samuel Dingba, Eric Dush, and William Brooks. Also from last year's fifth form, Brad Clough, Dan Murphy, Elliot Godus, Lucas Amato, Alex Cole, Ford Nolan, Jasper Drabner, and Sam Palmer. The final group from last year's fifth one: Rex Castleberry, Shane Simpson, Alex Morrison, Cameron Murray, Antonio Hart Palmares, Dwayne Scott, Donald Reed, and Sadiq Oladipo. This next group of students earned first honors averages last spring. First honors average was an A-, A, or A+ average, with no grade below C-. There were two groups of the third form who earned first honors averages last year. The first group: Adrian Wong, Trent Carpenter, Sean Hom, Ethan Marshall, and Charles Kosher. Also in last year's third form, first honors recognition to Caldwell Perkins, Sam Chung, Colin May, and Do Il Chun. Last year's fourth form, first honors recognition to Juan Doe, Demetrius Floro, Tom Liu, Will Shaw, and Dong Hyun Sean King. Also from last year's fourth form, Joseph McClone, Koji Gormazano, Kyle Leary, Sung Hyun, Sean Kim, and Matt Kelsey. First honors recognition to members of last year's fifth form: Darby McGlone, Joseph Yoon, Michael Proctor, Nick Turacamo, Chia Huang, and Wee Jin Park. the final group of first honors recognition from last year's fifth one. Yaskadir Kuzmuratov, Hugh Bartlett, Amin Alareza, Philip Boone, and Rex Yang. I'm very pleased to introduce my colleague Chris Hinchy, who has some course awards. Chris?
Thank you, Sam. Good morning. It's now my great privilege to read off the names of those students being recognized for course awards, which indicate excellence in a specific course. Course prize in studio art, Rashad Lance. In sculpture, Nicholas Shaw. Course prize in World History Honors, Dong Hyun Kim. In AP Statistics, Chia Huang. Course prize in Jazz Ensemble going to two students, Nicholas Hyman and Frederick Mason. Course prize in biology, Adela de Batra. And in honors biology, Koji Gormazan. In environmental science, John Maymar. Course prize in field studies, Trent Carpenter. And in honors physics, Yeskandir Azmiratov. In world languages, in French 1, Adam Tebatra. In French 2, Deun Wang. In French 3, Angelo Philibon. Course prize in French 4 honors, Hugh Bartlett. And in AP Latin, Rex Castleberry. In Mandarin 1, Charles Kocha. Course prize in Mandarin 2, Seung Hong Kim. Mandarin 3, Young Ji Moon. And in Mandarin 4, Clark Lambo. In Spanish 1, Morihiko Nakajima. Spanish 2 honors, Zion Louis. Spanish 4 honors, Daniel Murphy. The following students are winning course awards in multiple courses. Course prize in AP, Language and Composition, and Mandarin 4, P.K. Isaacs. Course prize in 3rd Form English and Ancient History, Ethan Marshall. For excellence in 4th Form English Honors and Algebra 2, Joseph McGlone. Course prize in Photography and Mandarin 2, Taylor Owen. The course prize in AP US History, AP AB Calculus, and AP Chemistry, Legion Park. The course prize in Algebra 1 and Environmental Science, William Shaw. The course prize in BC Calculus and AP Physics, Kyung Duk Yoon. Now, it's my pleasure again to represent the faculty. At the end of the year, the faculty votes on those students who have achieved excellence and improvement, those who have shown the most academic improvement, and those who have shown the most overall improvement. The most academic improvement in the 3rd form, Siok Ho Han. form going to 2 students, Ryan Castle and Matthew Rowe. Most academic improvement in the 5th form, Adelaide T. Botchway. The following overall improvement in the 3rd form, Chuck Chung Chu. Most overall improvement in the 4th form, Duncan Jones. The most overall improvement in the 5th form, Antonio Hart Palomares.
The last part of our program this morning is to award some major awards, book prizes. The Brown University Book Award is given in honor of this year's student who, as a member of last year's 5th form, does combine a high degree of ability in English composition, English expression, both written and spoken, with outstanding personal qualities which gave promise that the student would become one of a succession of men and women duly qualified for discharging the office of life with usefulness and reputation. The Brown University Book Award this year goes to T.K. Island. The Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony Award. The University of Rochester sponsors this award to recognize outstanding achievement in the humanities and or social sciences. This student was selected on the basis of academic achievement, leadership, and community service during last year's 5th form. The winner is Hugh Barber. Harvard Prize is awarded by the Harvard Club of Boston and is to be presented to the outstanding student in last year's 5th form who, quote, displays excellence in scholarship and high character combined with achievement in other fields, unquote. The Harvard Prize goes to Regent Park. RPI medal. The Rensselaer Mathematics and Science Prize is awarded to the outstanding member of last year's 5th form for his work in the combined areas of mathematics and sciences. The RPI medal goes to Chia Quang. Trinity College Book Award is awarded by the Trinity College Club of Hartford. This prize is given to a member of last year's 5th form in recognition of his high scholastic standing and his service to the school. The Trinity Award goes to Sadiq Alana. Wesleyan Book Prize. The Wesleyan University Book Prize is awarded to the outstanding student in last year's 5th form who has most impressed the faculty with a high probability that he will dedicate himself to a lifetime of intellectual growth as well as deep involvement in the furtherance of the well-being of his community, ideals that are the pillars of the Wesleyan University tradition. The Wesleyan Prize goes to Young Duck Yoon. The final book prize is the Williams College Book Award. This prize is given to the student in the top 5% of last year's fifth form who has demonstrated intellectual leadership and has made a significant contribution to the extracurricular life of the school. The Williams Award goes to Nick Turacon. Three final awards, entitled the First Scholar Awards. They are awarded to the student in each of the three upper forms, lower forms, for the highest academic average. The first one, last year's third form First Scholar, is away at a family commitment, and we should give Chai Hang Wong a round of applause. First scholar in last year's fourth form was Dong Hyun Sean Kim. And the first scholar in last year's fifth form was Wee Jin Park.
Congratulations, boys. This concludes our ceremony. We have a wonderful lunch in the dining room. I'm supposed to mention that athletes who have a game coming up are going to be fed in the wrestling room upstairs. For parents, please join us in the dining room, and I would say bundle warmly this afternoon. Thanks and good afternoon.